Today we called a press conference so that we can go over a list of grievances, I guess you could say, that we have with the current police chief. Many of you have received the letter already, so I'm not going to go over everything in micro detail, but I do want to say right off at the beginning that we are indeed calling for the termination of the chief of police, Jason Thody, and we believe that he is no longer fit to lead the department. We come to that conclusion through research and hearing complaints from many different people. What the Alliance does is it provides a vehicle for community agencies, groups, and individuals to come together and create a forum where we can discuss critical issues that impact the greater Hartford African American community, and we come up with solutions. Unfortunately, we believe that the best solution as it pertains to the culture within the police department is the termination of the chief of police. The Greater Hartford African American Alliance is writing this letter to Mayor Bronin, who we will take this up, to call attention to the horrific misconduct of an on-duty white police sergeant who assaulted a black civilian woman while she was in the custody and care of the Hartford Police Department and the City of Hartford. We demand immediate redress. There is no longer trust, legitimacy, confidence in the ability of the Hartford Police Department to police itself. Misconduct appears to be the order of the day, as is exemplified by the fact that a sergeant, full-grown man, would hit a female in the face, supposedly on the jawline to inflict some sort of attention and pain, to bring her under control. If that's the level we've come to, we have a serious problem. To me, it speaks to a different type of culture, one that says, I can do this without recompense. Lockup is covered by cameras. He had to know he was on camera. He struck this woman. This is not the type of leadership we want in our police department. There's the Deadpool issue. There are many other issues that have been brought to the police chief's attention, and yet this still continues. If it hadn't been for the local blogger, Kevin Brookman, we probably wouldn't even know about this. So it raises a bigger question. What else is going on that we don't know about? We didn't know about the Deadpool until it came out. So there are a whole lot of incidents that are happening that would say to us that there is a culture of non-accountability within the ranks of the Hartford Police Department. If you were to be able to get some of these police officers alone and ask them off the record, I think they would collaborate a lot of the things that I'm saying, because these things aren't my opinion. This isn't personal to the chief. It's about leadership within the department. We have a city that is racked by crime. We have a culture where there are all-terrain vehicles roving around the city in bands of 30 and 40 deep. They're riding up and down the sidewalks, up and down City Hall, through our parks. And if you were to listen to some, you'd think this was a cultural experience in Hartford. It is not. The majority of Hartford residents are decent, law-abiding people, and we want a city that is law-abiding. If we have leadership that believes that because their leadership in a city that is predominantly black and brown, that they can't enforce the law because they may not be black and brown, we have a problem. The people who call themselves decent residents here in the city need to be able to freely walk the streets, not hear gunshots at night. I say the gunshots at night because we have a culture of vigilantism. People don't feel free to call the police, so they're handling issues on their own. That speaks to a culture. If we have people riding all-terrain vehicles up and down the street where there is police officers, and they don't care about the police officers' presence, and the police are not allowed to engage them, it creates a culture of chaos and lawlessness. Last summer, we had fireworks that went on ad nauseam. Crime is going on ad nauseam. We appreciate the police department quick and swift resolution to particular crimes, but we want a city where crime doesn't happen at all. We listed several things here that involve Jason Thody. They're not meant as personal attacks, but rather to list a series of behaviors that show that the type of behavior that's being demonstrated within the police department is consistent with who he has demonstrated himself to be. To date, the police department has not promoted persons of color or any other protected class member to the command position from within the Hartford Police Department. It's important to promote from within if you want to build an agency that reflects the city. If every time someone is promoted, they opt out to go to another place, they are forced out because of the culture, the city will never have the type of command staff that reflects the residents of the city. Hartford is but a heartbeat away from being featured in the headlines on the national news. Courageous action and intentionality are required to own and address problems within the Hartford Police Department before matters get out of control. Punching an unarmed woman in custody in the presence of subordinate personnel on camera is the canary in the mine. We find it curious that this incident was only brought to the office of the state's attorney for investigation after the story was published by a local reporter. Over 2.5 weeks after the incident took place. That is unacceptable. All right. Therefore, in addition to the NAACP's demand for the immediate termination of the police sergeant, the Alliance, the African American Alliance, is also demanding that Chief Jason Thody be immediately relieved of his duties as police chief of the city of Hartford. The restoration to build public trust and legitimacy will not occur while Jason Thody is at the helm. Based on Thody's history of ignoring federal and state law, he should be prohibited from independently making any further promotions or appointments. To truly change the culture of Hartford Police Department, procedural justice must be the guiding principle for internal and external policies and practices. And the community must also have the ability to verify and a credible system of accountability, which currently only exists on paper, must start with competent, ethical, and trustworthy leadership. We know that we have a strong mayor, and the Alliance is asking the mayor to do what we have suggested, or we will be forced to refer these matters to higher authorities. We look forward to a confirmation of receipt and advisement from our mayor. We'd like to publicly say that Jason Thody is not at the top. As far as we're concerned, he's at the bottom of this issue. If he continues to move forward, then we will believe that it is not Jason Thody that truly has the problem, but someone perhaps that he answers to. We seek resolution, and we will not stop until the city is brought under the control of the constituents, and that the city's elected officials know that we want change. We're not going to go through another summer like we did. The African American Alliance doesn't only reflect the voice of the north end of Hartford. It is a voice for all of Hartford. I thank you for your time and consideration. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Has the letter been delivered? Did it be delivered?
The letter has been emailed to the mayor. I'm going to take him up a copy of the letter and give it to either him or his representative.
Received a response after you emailed it so far?
I have not had a response from the mayor. I've had several responses from elected officials. I talked to Council President this morning, and we will see what happens.
And you're calling for his termination, Jason Thody. So who do you want at the top then?
We're not asking for anybody to be, replace him. We want someone who the community is comfortable with. The fact of the matter is the community was never comfortable with Jason Thody, and many of the things that are happening under his command were things that were pointed out prior to him taking command. That's part of the rub. Had the mayor made good on his promise as he was campaigning for mayor, he said he was going to put it out to a national search. He didn't do that. That's his prerogative as mayor. He won. He gets to make the big boy decisions. His big boy decision was to hire Jason Thody. I'm good with that. I think most people were good with that. What we're not good with is what has happened since the hiring. And this culture has to stop. Someone in the city has to take the stance that, you know, we're going to call for resignations if people aren't doing their jobs or immediate termination. I'm 61 years old. I'm the young guy in our group. Our elders in the city are not happy.
And you're obviously the president. What are you hearing from people that you speak to in the neighborhoods that you're talking about, that your community members? You're their mouthpiece today, right? Describe for us what you're hearing from them based on these incidents.
Oddly enough, I'm hearing things not only from the community, but from community members who are police officers. There is a culture within the police department that is toxic. It is seen in the community because there's lawlessness. So if we look at Wethersfield Avenue just Sunday, there's an impromptu block party where there's people total disregard for the police. While the police are investigating an active shooter scene, there's retaliation across town. Community members are afraid to come out of their house. They don't have to lock up the 0.5% of 0.5% of the criminals that are doing these things because the citizens are staying inside. So if we're going to talk about coming out of a pandemic, if we're going to talk about community members feeling free to have jazz concerts in Bushnell Park or jazz concerts in Keeney Park, or being able to sit on their doorsteps at night and enjoy the fresh night air, that actually happens in North Hartford, and there's gunshots, you stay inside. People want streets that are safe and that they can feel comfortable on and invite their friends and family to. We're tired of being seen as a city that's out of control. And when I talk to people, that is their overall sentiment.
Did you forward a copy of the letter to the chief of police, and have you spoken to him, picked up the phone and called him?
I haven't picked up the phone to call him about this. The way the African Alliance works, once they make a decision goes out. I'm sure he's gotten a copy of the letter. I didn't send him one specifically. I sent this to our elected officials and people in positions of leadership at our state level, our federal level, the Justice Department, as well as members of our city council. I have had a sit-down conversation with the chief after our last press conference outside of police headquarters. Things have not gotten better, they have gotten worse. And this is not an indictment on the police officers, nor is it an indictment on the good work that they have done. It's an indictment of the leadership, culture, and climate within the police department, which I could go on ad nauseum, but I don't think this would be the appropriate forum.
And do you plan to reach out to him specifically since that?
No, but
The both of the letters about him, is it fair question to ask?
no, he doesn't work for me. The mayor does. He works for the mayor. So I'm delivering this to the guy who works for me. We are beyond talk. I've spent 30, almost 40 years covering meetings in the city where that's all they do is talk. They literally have conversations next week that I could show you happened 20 years ago. The city considers conversation action. It is not. It doesn't take long to present action. So we're giving the mayor an opportunity to act. That's the same thing I told the Madam President of the Council this morning. We want action, not conversation. He's like a bad employee. We don't need to talk. This is not about what you did wrong last year. It's about where you are now. Thank you. Thank you for your time, all of you. And big ups to the camera people. Without the cameraman, there is no news.
Amen.
Are we okay to talk to others here?
You can ask anybody any question.
Because they were deferring me to you.
If it's about the alliance, they probably will.
Yeah.
But other than